Is there one storyline or two that maybe has flown under the radar with your 5-0 start?
Oh my goodness. No, I don't think so. I think obviously, we're starting to gain a little bit of attention, which I think is deserved for our kids. Happy for our kids and our coaches who put so much hard work into this. And I think, the biggest thing for us now is to be able to handle these distractions that are around us. I think, being around Mike Leach for so many years, I'm pretty well versed in really letting these kids know that distractions are coming your way. I think more so than ever with social media these days. So to continue to harp on the things that have gotten us here and to continue to do the little things well that have given us a chance to be successful in these games, that we've earned an opportunity to now play in a big game in front of our home crowd. So just excited for our players, our fans, our university, to get some recognition and start getting on a little bit bigger stage.
Well, your next two are tough ones. Obviously, I mean, they're all tough ones, I know, Coach, but USF and UTSA back-to-back after the bye. But so far, you guys have gone through the season and you've been able to win tough games on the road a couple of different times in overtime. What does that do building the character of a team going forward and confidence knowing that give you the ball at the end and you're probably going to get it done?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I think, you're building character one game at a time. You're learning how to win, I think is something that's super important in today's, college football more than ever, just because, with our team right now, we have a bunch of people that haven't played that much football together, although they played football a lot of meaningful snaps maybe at other places. Just to learn how to win as a team. I think, our defensive coordinator has done a phenomenal job coming in and really changing our expectations on that side, changing our standards on that side. So it's been fun to watch that continue to grow the confidence on that side of the ball. And so, yeah, it's been fun. I think, we're battle tested right now, winning on the road at Army and Western Michigan in two totally, completely different ways. I think, South Alabama is a lot better football team than a 1-4 team. I mean, I turned on the tape watching them and, they almost beat Tulane a couple weeks ago, played with Auburn. And so yeah. And obviously I think, two really tough challenges coming ahead. I mean, Coach Golish has done a phenomenal job at South Florida. You turn on the tape and watch them dominate the Florida Gators in the swamp and that gets your attention really fast. You watch them dominate Boise State. So yeah, I mean, this will be, two of our toughest tests yet. We know that. But that's why you play the game. And, I think our kids are ready for the challenge.
The story of your quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, has been told a lot here lately, especially up in the DFW area. A guy who got beat out at quarterback in high school, had to find other positions to play. And then you get word about him, and it all comes together to where he gets this opportunity. And now here he is as your starting quarterback. You got the look in the bowl game, and I imagine – kind of knowing what he could do, that had to be like just super eye-opening and kind of a crazy time to just see him go full on. But now having 5 games under his belt this season, you talk about handling things and attention coming your way. How is he handling that? And what's it been like to have him knee deep in that QB1 position, working week to week, game to game, and tracking his progress?
Yeah, I mean, we're super blessed to have him on our team. I mean, I think, even more so before we talk about the player, Drew, I mean, just talking about the person, Drew, I mean, just a pleasure to be around, a great teammate, super competitive. I mean, I think back to our first touchdown last week to get us going. We run a reverse and, he gets out in front of our receiver. He's supposed to get in somebody's way if need be. And instead of getting somebody's way, he's, hauling downfield and lowers his right shoulder and lays the boom on a safety to get our guy in the end zone. And, our whole team goes crazy. I've since, ripped him on that's not what we do. That right shoulder is worth a lot of money. But I think, that's why people love to play with Baker Mayfield. That's why people love to play with Patrick Mahomes. I think just he's competitive. He has an edge about him. He's growing as a leader. He's having a ton of fun. He hasn't played that much football, which is shocking when you watch him play. And so I think now that he's out there in a groove, he's having so much fun. But at the same time, he's super smart. He's taking care of the football. All those, small detail things that I think ultimately win you games at quarterback.
What was that experience like seeing him in that bowl game though, and going like, oh, wait a second, because that was your first like full dose of him kind of running the show, right? He had played some spot duty, but just what was that like? And when you're like, okay, well, he's definitely in the mix for next year.
So he's practiced so well, and there's just never been any video evidence of him doing it, in when the lights are on. And so that was so hard for us to say, our new defensive coordinator came in to watch bowl prep. And, about a week into it, he's like, holy smokes, coach, like this kid's phenomenal. And I'm like, yeah, man, I hope it translates. So I think, we were definitely anxious as a staff at that time, just hoping that, what we're seeing every day practice is going to translate to the game. And the very first third down, I mean, they ran a twist and had a defensive end that came unblocked, and he was unblocked, and we're trying to throw a backside curl route. And Drew just stood in the pocket, knew he was about to get hit, and threw an absolute dime to convert our first third down. And so I think that was the first moment I was like, okay, like this kid, he's got it. And then later that drive, he throws about a 50-yard strike to his high school teammate Miles Coleman on a 4 verts pattern, and came off and is juiced and has all the excitement. And so I think that first drive I was like, okay, cool. And then after the game, he's the first call I made as I was driving home, and I just said, hey, listen, like, we don't have any quarterbacks on this roster right now. You're the only one. Obviously we got to sign other guys. We're going to sign a transfer, and we got Chris Jimerson coming in who just won a state championship at North Crowley, but you're going to have more than a shot to win this job permanently. And I think, he believed us just because, I think we took a shot on him, and then he was able to, move up the depth chart to number 2 really fast as a redshirt. I mean, as a redshirt freshman that was a walk-on. And so yeah, he's taking these opportunities. He's run with them. He continues to get better, continues to grow, and been a pleasure to coach.
You mentioned Miles Coleman. We were fortunate, maybe not midway, but they played against Vandergrift when Miles was there. A dynamic wide receiver. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. It's good that he's able to contribute. Not a surprise whatsoever. What kind of a gem was he for you to get that commitment, and he's at UNT?
Yeah, Miles is just one of those kids. Like, he's small in stature, and so we knew the big dogs probably were going to stay away from him. A guy that, he's a 10-5 100-meter dash guy. He returns punts. He returns kicks. He's fearless over the middle, has great ball skills. He's one of those kids you look at and you watch him practice, and you're like, okay, like if this kid was 6 foot tall, he'd be going to Texas or Ohio State or Florida State or something like that. And so, Miles is such a pleasure to coach, just the way he practices, the effort, and so, yeah, I mean, gritty kid that came on as a freshman for us late last year, and then, has really, turned into pretty much slot number 1 for us this year.
And Vandergrift pipeline's working out well for you, Coach.
Yeah, that's no question.
It really is so far.
I do send the head coach from time. I send him clips of Drew, some of our clips, and I'm like, man, did y'all see any of this?
You are, and we've talked to you about quarterbacks before. When you are looking at a guy who is a quarterback, or in like Drew's case, a potential quarterback, do you look at it differently because of the way that you like to develop guys and, kind of start from the bottom like you've done so many times?
Yeah, there's some stuff that, obviously I had great mentors in Mike Leach and Cliff Kingsbury teaching me the core. I was a receiver at heart, so teaching me how to study quarterbacks, how to look for certain things. And, we want accurate guys. There's some stuff that I like mechanically, that I think have grown on me over time of watching so many, some non-negotiables. But then other than that, I think I love to figure out what kind of competitor they are. And I love just really competitive. I love watching them play other sports. Found Baker Mayfield on a baseball diamond, found John Mateer on a baseball diamond, Cam Ward in the basketball gym, all these different things. I think you see a different side of them. And then the one thing we dive into is just how do they process information and how fast can they process information. And I think that's a little bit tougher to do. I think it takes a little more time to do that, to figure out what they do. But that's the one thing. All these guys, they throw a little different. They have a little bit different skill sets. but they all have a unique ability to process information really fast on game day. And so, we spend a great deal of time on figuring out if you can do that, yes or no.
Mayfield, Ward, that's an insane list, Coach. Like that's already a pretty insane list, and those guys are obviously doing big things. When's the first time you saw Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, so the cool thing about Patrick is we were recruiting a kid named Dylan Cantrell at receiver the year before, and so Dylan was, as we got through that process and we went and watched games, Patrick was his quarterback, and so we got kind of a firsthand look at Patrick, and he was just. His footwork wasn't great at the time, running around, making just all these ridiculous, throws. And, as a college coach, we said, hey, that can't translate to our game. He's going to have to speed up. And lo and behold, he came and proved everybody wrong, and he could do that at college too. And then all the NFL guys came in and they said the same thing. Well, he can't do this at our level. And, week by week, he continues to prove people wrong. Now he's progressed. I mean, he's a really good timing. He can throw on time. He can do all the things. But we saw, I think the time when we knew Coach Kingsbury and I is we were at a traveling camp at Longview, Texas, and Katie Cannon, who you guys all know really well. We're recruiting KD at the same time, and so we're trying to. We had already offered. We were in the process. We just kind of wanted to make sure we checked all the boxes, and then KD came. We're trying like hell to get him. So he runs a couple go patterns, and Patrick takes a 5-step drop, 2 hitches, and launches these things 75, 80 yards on a dot in one-on-ones, and throws a couple field comebacks to KD, who's as fast as there was in high school at that time. I think we left that camp, and Cliff was like, that's one of the best performances I've ever seen in a camp in my life. And so I think that's where we're like, okay, like let's get over all this backyard football stuff. Like this kid has a unique ability to throw the football.
Eric, what's the position with you at playing wide receiver, but also with what success you've had at quarterback? What position do you feel like you can look at, know more than any others that they have a chance to play at the next level?
Yeah, I think, I've grown a lot in the quarterback room just because, as I've, moved on being a head coach and play caller, I think, spend a little bit more time there. I still think I just so much vested time. Like if you said, hey, you got to go in an NFL room tomorrow and coach these guys on exactly what to do. I still think, just the instinct of being a receiver still comes out more in me. I always tell people, coaching receivers here is the hardest job of anybody on my staff, just because that's my expertise. That's what I played. That's what I love. And so although that switched a little bit, I would still lean heavily of me just having, a PhD in receiver play.
When you mentioned, recruiting receivers that, because they're smaller and the big guys don't want them. That's a very Mike Leach thing too, isn't it? Like he did not care if you could run and he could teach you how to go catch a ball. Like you could have been 5'1". He would have like, let's get out there. Yeah.
If Mike was here today, which, I miss those conversations more than anything in the world. Mike would tell you that all happened organically. And, he would mention that Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, or myself, he would tell you he never recruited any one of those guys. That that Wes was an afterthought because they had to get somebody late. He came in as a running back, performed so well that they moved him to slot, and he was so good they just had to find ways to get him the ball. Another guy on staff from Oklahoma actually helped get him there late. Amendola begged to come in Texas Tech to be the next Wes Welker. I begged to come to Texas Tech to become the next Wes Welker. And so I think, a bunch of headsy, smart guys that knew at that time in college football, like that was our only opportunity. Nobody at that time was in 4 wides and utilizing a slot receiver like he was doing and throwing the ball, 70 times a game. And so I think, it was an opportunity I think that we all took advantage of. But I think, the game has kind of morphed since then, but I'm definitely not scared. I don't have a stereotypical where, my receivers have to be 6 foot and run this. I think there's an art form to playing receiver. and I'm okay with having them all different shapes, sizes, speeds, all these different things. And then I believe that if they're a good football player, we'll find a way to get them on the field for us.
Well, look, I know this because my wife is a huge fan of Dancing with the Stars. Amendola is a dancer. That could be you, Coach. you tell your agent, in the off season, like maybe you want to do what Amendola did.
I've made fun of him way too much over text message to get myself out there on the dance floor. So he actually did a nice job. I was proud of him. Got out of his comfort zone, and I was proud of him for it.
Eric, with success, you mentioned that a lot of players getting notoriety, attention, and more to come. And then it's also the way it is when it comes to coaches as well. How have you handled some of the, at least, speculation that's out there? I've seen G.J. Kinney and Jeff Traylor, and obviously there are others that have tried to handle that. How have you handled that?
Yeah, I think, and I always take myself back to when I started coaching football, and my first job was a GA job at University of Houston for Kevin Sumlin and Cliff Kingsbury. And I think back to those days and had these dreams of hey, I just want to be an FBS head coach in the state of Texas. Like, that was my dream job. And, my dad's a high school coach. And so I think I'm a little bit different to where I'm living my dream, and all my energy and effort every single day has been poured into these kids and coaches, and we're finally getting to a spot to where we're able to win some games and create some buzz. And I tell our players and our coaches all the time, if you win at this level, people are going to say everybody's leaving. If you lose at this level, everybody's gonna try to get rid of you. And so I'm super proud of that we're in these conversations. That means that we're doing well right now. And to tell you, my energy is more than ever focused on this team and continue to pour into these young men every single day, and not listen to distraction. I tell our guy, that's what I preach to my team. And I tell them, hey, when I'm saying up there at times telling you some message, like, I'm usually talking to myself too, and to be able to don't read. Leach used to say all your press clippings. That's not a thing anymore. I think you say, hey, don't read the internet, don't read Twitter, X, Instagram, all these different things. So I'm living a dream every single day. My family gets to experience it with me. They're able to drive over from the Lubbock area and sit up in a box and watch a game. And so super blessed to be where I am, love where I am, love coming to work every day.
Last question for me, Eric. Thank you very much for your time and enjoying the off week. And then next week you have USF. But do you feel like your team at 5-0, because it's a program that has had some success and then ups and downs as well. There's a reason you're there. But do you feel like they believe in themselves?
My players?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, anytime you have success, it has to breed confidence. And I think, Coach Cassidy brought a new identity to this defense. And I think, there's always speculation until you get out there and you actually do it as an athlete. And I think there's more anxiety ever, just with the generation that we deal with now, that they're so used to instant gratification. And that's not the way football works. Like, you got to work and you got to buy into the details and the small things and practicing well and preparing on, Monday through Friday to give you a chance to win. And I think, we have a lot of older guys on this team that have played a lot of football, and that might have not been here. But the maturity level of this team is by far the greatest that it's been since I've been here. We're better up front on both sides of the ball. We're running the ball better than we ever have. We're stopping the run better than we ever have. So there's a bunch of ingredients that have gone into our success. And I think, our kids and coaches have done a great job of buying into that. But yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're able to go out there and have success and win games the way that we are, I think that breeds confidence and continues to allow you to grow.
I saw the transfer Huddleston from TCU, who played at Chapel Hill, and Tyler has had a big year, and he's after trying to figure himself out. I brought that up because of this. Jared Mosley, your AD, we've known him for a long time. Somebody had mentioned about they always thought back in the past, and probably just a typical social media comment about that UNT in football has been a Charlie Brown and waiting for Lucy to pull the ball out. But I bring that up because Jared Mosley, I love this response. Hard to build consistent winners when your mindset is waiting for things to go bad. We need, and we are creating and committing to the future. We have many people back with the mean green and need to multiply that mindset. And he's done a great job with you as well, obviously helping run that athletic department.
Just Jared Mosley is a superstar. I'll say that first and foremost. I mean, I think his attention to detail and finding ways to reach, our alumni base, finding ways to reach the many that have graduated from here that still reside in the DFW area, to reach our students, I think has just done a phenomenal job. And I think, winning cures a lot in this area. And I know, a bunch of that falls on our shoulders as a program and the way we perform down the stretch here. And so I'm not oblivious to that. And so I think, I've always said, hey, if we build it, they will come. And so I think this is a group effort right now. And I think our administration is doing a phenomenal job of getting the excitement level up in Denton, to be able to reach, our fan base on new and unique ways. And so, blessed to work alongside with him every single day.
I have a listener, a viewer, who has your last game-worn jersey when you were at Tech against Ole Miss in the Cotton Bowl. And so I'm going to text you to see if I can get that to you, and wondered if you would at least, maybe sign that so we can get that back to him, if it's okay.
All right. So here's a trivia question you can put on that one, though.
All right.
So that touchdown scored the last ever touchdown at the Cotton Bowl, played in the actual Cotton Bowl. The next year, I scored the last touchdown in that game. And the next year they moved it to Jerry's World. So a little bit of history in that thing that they probably didn't realize. But yeah, I'd love to sign it and get it back to whoever has it.
I'll let Doug Waters know. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate your time. Good luck, and enjoy a little bit of the downtime, although I know it never stops at this time of the year. Appreciate you.